So as we all know that the crisis in Gaza is continuing on. The Lancet recently did a report where potentially 186,000 people or more could be dead because of the conflict in Gaza. Now, that is almost 7.9% of the population. And Dime Store Count Chocula. You know what? I shouldn't even call him Count Chocula. I think Hotspot did it better. Watch Count Smirkula, Matt Miller, as he finally gets called out for his evil grin. Now, this guy has no color to his face. I don't think he has a soul. I don't think he's got a pulse in his body. But this individual, Count Smirkula, decides to say he's not even going to entertain the number of potentially 186,000 to maybe 200,000 dead men, women, and children in Gaza. This is all happening under a Democratic administration, by the way. And you know what? I'm no longer going to call him Count Chocula. He doesn't deserve that title. Count Chocula at least has honor. Well, at least for a corporation that is producing a sugary product that probably has more health problems than anything else. But nonetheless, here's Count Smirkula when confronted about the numbers. Shout out again to Hotspot.
Are you aware of the Lancet Group report? It's a medical magazine, British medical magazine, that estimated the deaths as a result of the war in Gaza to be 186,000. And of course, it's taken into account, the expert took into account indirect deaths, that have happened thus far and may happen as a result of the war, including disease and other things and starvation.
So I have seen the report, and I will just say whatever the number of civilians that have actually died as a result of this conflict, we know that it's far too many. Yeah. And far too many civilians have been needlessly killed as a result of this conflict. And that is why we are working so hard, including negotiations that are going on this week to try to reach a ceasefire that would alleviate the suffering in Gaza, that would bring home the hostages that continue to be held, and ultimately put us on a path to hopefully ending the war.
So are you concerned that, the figures could be far more staggering than what we've seen published by, let's say, the Ministry of Health in Gaza? I remember early on, the Assistant Secretary of State, Barbara Lee, told one of the committees on Capitol Hill that...
Now, in case anyone is asking and they can't hear it, I will be raising the volume for this video segment. And so when I clip it, it'll be a little bit more clear just for all of you to hear as well.
The death may actually be more than what the ministry, the health ministry, I'm not saying.
Sure. The death toll could very well be more. We know there are potentially people who are under rubble who have not been counted. But it goes to the point I was making, whatever the number is.
Why are you smiling?
The reported number already is far too high. Reported number already is unacceptable, the number of civilian deaths. So, of course, something higher than that would just be further tragedy. But we long ago passed the stage where this has been a horrific human tragedy for some time.
He gets called out. You're smirking. Why are you smirking?
This has been a horrific human tragedy for some time. Go ahead with another question. Yeah. Absolutely not. I'm not even going to entertain that. I'm not even going to entertain that. Saeed, go ahead with another question.
Thank you.
It's ridiculous.
I wanted to ask you about the status of the talks. I know yesterday.
So again, folks, just in case you are tuning in, and we did talk about this on yesterday's show, but again, the Lancet, I just want to pull up this article here. Just a little snippet from Hotspot. They do great work. Nico House and Nick from RBN post some videos there on Hotspot as well. Newly published study from Lancet estimates the actual death toll in Gaza is 186 or more. That's 8% of the total population of Gaza. Let that sink in. And this is just a short snippet from the article. In recent conflicts, such indirect deaths range from 3 to 50 times the number of direct deaths, applying conservative estimate of 4 indirect deaths per 1 direct death to the 37,396 deaths reported. It is not implausible to estimate that up to 186,000 or even more deaths could be attributed to the current conflict in Gaza. Using the 2022 Gaza Strip population estimate of 2,375,259, that would translate to 7.9% of the total population in the Gaza Strip. A report from February 7, 2024, at the time when the direct death toll was 28,000, estimate that without a ceasefire, there would be between 58,260 deaths without epidemic or escalation to 85,750 deaths if both occurred by August 6, 2024. That number's a lot higher. And it's going to get higher even, unfortunately, because no cookies for Gaza, I guess. No cookies for Gaza. Israel slams Gaza starvation report. Israel has rejected allegations by a group of independent UN human rights experts that has directed a campaign to starve Palestinians in Gaza. According to the expert group, 34 people, most of them children, have died of malnutrition since October 7th in the enclave. The experts accuse Israel of carrying out a targeted starvation campaign. No cookies for Gaza. You know, I brought this up before, but maybe it's sounding like a broken record, but I'm going to keep on repeating it so that all of you can at least have it filed in your mind, because I can't predict what will lie in store for all of us the next minute, the next hour, or the next day, week, or year. But you're probably going to go to a party or an event, maybe a music event, and you're all sitting around having drinks, maybe having a delicious meal with friends or snack, or just walking around. And, you know, you might meet some new people here and there, and you're going to run into that one special person who's going to say, you know, politics is going to be brought up sooner or later. It always is. But you might run into a special person, and this special person will say, if I was alive during World War II, I would have been a part of the resistance and hide the Jews from the Nazis. If I was alive during the Civil War era, I would have helped with the Underground Railroad or something of that nature, right? We've all run into that kind of person. I actually have run into that kind of person. Bless their hearts. They're so ignorant. Because no, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't do it at all. They wouldn't do it at all. Because here's the thing. How you would act during that time frame is how you're acting now. So all these people, especially to the liberals, going to bat for Joe 30330. What is happening under his watch? Thought you guys were resistance against fascism. They show me shite. The expert group, led by Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food, Michael Farakai, has argued that the situation in Gaza de facto amounts to famine, even though the UN has not formally classified it as such. Really, Israel's intentional and targeted starvation campaign against the Palestinian people is a form of genocidal violence and resulted in famine all across Gaza, the experts said in a statement. They called on the UN to prioritize the delivery of humanitarian aid by any means necessary, as well as end Israel's siege and establish a ceasefire. Inaction is complicity. There you go. The Israeli mission to the UN in Geneva denounced the report on Tuesday, saying that its authors are as much accustomed to spreading misinformation as they are to supporting Hamas propaganda and shielding the terrorist organization from scrutiny. No one's doing that. But, you know, I don't know, controversial statement. Maybe people don't want to see starving children in the streets. Maybe, I don't know, people want to see war crimes being stopped. I mean, is that a bridge too far? Maybe it is. Maybe it truly, truly is. West Jerusalem's representatives pointed out to last week's report by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, which said the famine predicted in March had not materialized. The mission claimed that Israel has helped deliver humanitarian aid to the enclave, while members of Hamas intentionally steal and hide aid from civilians. So we're all going to pretend that we haven't seen those videos on TikTok or on Twitter or on Instagram of food being delivered and then the crowds being shot at. You know, their excuse was that people were charging at the trucks. Well, listen, if you go weeks, months without food or barely having enough sustenance to keep you alive, I mean, I don't know how any of us would react. You know, but if I had the strength to take care of my relatives and they were all dying of starvation and I had the strength to at least get food to them, I'm rushing to that truck. But also for the fact of, have you forgotten what happened to the World Central Kitchen Aid workers? Have you forgotten the fact that there has been numerous videos on social media that we have seen of Israeli civilians going to these food aid trucks and purposely emptying it out and pouring the food and other stuff on the ground? Maybe my brain is playing tricks on me. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case indeed. But folks, try not to rage out too much, because I'm going to tell you a story about a person named Kamala. Now, this is from the Post Millennial, and this is just some excerpts from The Nation, which interviewed Kamala. Try not to punch your screen. Kamala Harris offers concerns for needs of women in Gaza amid Israel-Hamas conflict. What are women in Gaza doing about sanitary hygiene? Do they have pads? You know, she's okay. Kamala. Nothing you say or do is ever going to make you look better to people. In a new interview, when Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris was asked about Israel's war against Palestinian terrorists, she responded by talking about the needs of the women in Gaza, including cooking and menstrual products. Over the weekend, The Nation published an interview with the vice president, who may end up becoming the Democratic nominee for president in 2024. In the piece, which heaped praise on Biden's VP, the outlet wrote that Harris had gotten credit for being a step ahead of the president in her public statements, criticizing Israel's relentless bombardment and resulting humanitarian crisis in Gaza with an eloquent anguish Biden has not matched. When the author of the piece, Joan Walsh, asked Harris about the difference in tone between her and Biden regarding the conflict, Harris responded, "Listen, I strongly believe that our ability to elevate the situation is connected to understanding the details of that situation." What does that even mean? God, this woman does not know how to speak. Not speaking of myself versus the president, not at all. From the beginning, I asked questions. Okay, the trucks are taking flour to Gaza, but here's the thing, Joan. I like to cook. So I said to my team, you can't make shite with flour if you don't have clean water. So what's going on with that? Oh, she's asking about water. I asked questions like, what are people actually eating right now? I'm hearing stories about their eating animal feed, grass. So that's how I think about it. Similar, she goes on to say, I was asked early on, what are women in Gaza doing about sanitary hygiene? Do they have pads? And these are the issues that made people feel uncomfortable, especially sanitary pads. Walsh noted that young people like Harris's stepdaughter, Elma Emhoff, a radical activist, who have mobilized against the destruction of Gaza, are unlikely to be mollified by these answers. Walsh asked Harris what she would say to them, to which the Democratic vice president said, I hope you're sitting down for this one here, folks. If you're driving right now, please don't go into road rage. If you're at work, don't punch your screen. Come on. Let's all be ladies and gentlemen here. Here's from Kamala in response to that question. They are showing exactly what the human emotion should be as a response to Gaza. There are things some of the protesters are saying that I absolutely reject, so I don't mean to wholesale endorse their points, but we have to navigate it. I understand the emotion behind it. My God. That's a word salad if I ever saw one. They are showing exactly what the human emotion should be as a response to Gaza. These are things some of the protesters are saying that I absolutely reject. So I don't mean to wholesale endorse their points, but we have to navigate it. I understand the emotion behind it. Did you watching right now? Did anybody understand that? Did anybody get that? My goodness, Conor Roy's eulogy to Mo Lester. If you watch Succession, you know what I'm talking about. Was more articulate and more on point than anything Kamala said. And Conor Roy's a fictional character. Ugh! That is her plan. That is the vice president. That is Biden's replacement. Just a quick reminder, folks. Just a quick reminder here with this. While Kamala is saying word salad, the death toll, according to the Lancet study, is showing something far, far different. If you're not angry at the system, I don't know what else to tell you. And I'm seeing in the live stream chat people responding to it as well, as you should, as should all of us. We are seeing the firsthand account of an entire system falling apart. Our media failing us, all the while a genocide is taking place here. Final statement to the uncommitted voters. And I keep on saying this, all right? And this is not to bully. This is not to harass. This is not to make fun of. Uncommitted, you guys did something that I wish that we saw in 2016 and 2020. You guys and gals really are really putting a fear into the Democrats. But what I want to ask you is this. This administration knew. It knows of what was happening in Gaza after October 7th. That homes, residential buildings, apartments, places of worship, not only mosques, but churches as well, community centers, universities, schools, hospitals, refugee centers were being attacked. Uncommitted. If you think Biden, Kamala, Clinton, or any of these other Democrats care about you, they don't. The numbers are rising up. And what did the State Department do? They just smirked and smiled. That's all what they're going to do because they don't like you, they don't think about you, and they don't respect you. And we are seeing the whole world sitting on its hands, ignoring the fact that hundreds of thousands of people are dying, starving. When we do find the numbers, I wonder what the politicians will say. I wonder what wise words we'll hear from corporate media. But you know what? Here, I'll fast forward it for you. Some are going to be saying thoughts and prayers. Some are going to be saying, what a shame. Others will be saying, why didn't anybody do something? Was there something we could have done? But the dead don't come back. Mark my words. This crisis in Gaza is leading the foundation for the next war.